Dad kicked me out so my golden child half-brother could move in. Now he wants me to take the fall for my half-brother's crime. So, I agreed and planned a secret shocking surprise for them in court. 20M. This all started a year ago when my father decided I was no longer welcome at home. I remember that conversation vividly. He stood in the living room, arms folded, and announced, "We need more space. Your half-brother is moving in, and you've got to find someplace else." He said it so casually, as if kicking his oldest son to the curb was no big deal. I just started a community college program, working weekends at a hardware store. I asked why. He shrugged and said my half-brother, his golden child, deserved a comfortable home more than I did. I was stunned, but I left quietly, determined not to show him how hurt I was. My half-brother, 19M, was always the favorite. He got the new gadgets, the parental praise, the easy excuses for bad grades or lazy behavior. Meanwhile, I was expected to stand on my own. Eventually, I moved on, got a slightly better job, rented a small apartment, and tried not to dwell on the betrayal. Then came the call 2 weeks ago. My father's voice sounded nervous. "We need your help." He explained that my half-brother had gotten into legal trouble, serious trouble. He was accused of stealing high-value electronics from a neighbor's garage. The police had evidence, security footage, partial fingerprints, even text messages planning the theft. My father pleaded, "If you take the blame, just say it was you borrowing items. We'll hire a fancy lawyer and get you off with a slap on the wrist. Your half-brother can't have a criminal record. It'll ruin his future." I nearly laughed out loud. They wanted me to throw myself under the bus for the son they chose over me. They acted like I owed them loyalty, as if being kicked out wasn't enough humiliation. I should have hung up then, but instead I said, "Sure, I'll do it," so calmly it surprised me. My father sounded relieved, promising money under the table, maybe even a place back in the house. The entitlement was off the charts. They assumed I'd just comply. What they didn't know, I'd saved old messages, old recordings. I remembered how my father and half-brother bragged about fooling others, how they considered me disposable. And now they needed me to fall on my sword for their golden child. So I started planning my revenge. I reached out to a lawyer friend I'd met at the hardware store. He was a regular customer, offered me casual legal advice sometimes. I explained my situation. He suggested a strategy: pretend to agree, gather all evidence, then drop the truth bomb in court. So that's what I did. I told my father I'd testify that I took the items by mistake. My half-brother smirked during our last meeting, thinking he'd be in the clear. He even slipped me a few $100 as a thank you, as if buying my silence. Let him think he's won. I have a plan. A week before the trial, I asked my father and half-brother to meet me at a diner on the outskirts of town. I needed to get them on record somehow. My lawyer friend said, "In our state, one-party consent is enough for recordings." Perfect. I arrived early, placed my phone in my jacket pocket with the recording app running. They walked in, my father looking tense, my half-brother in designer clothes, sipping a latte he brought along. No greeting. Just, "You sure you'll do this? Because if you mess up, we're done helping you." I played my part, slumping my shoulders, speaking in a subdued tone. I said I would, didn't I? My half-brother smirked. "Good. Just tell the judge you borrowed those electronics. Maybe you were drunk or confused. Dad's lawyer will spin it. We'll pay your fines. You'll do no time. Simple." I nodded, making myself appear uncertain. "And what do I get after this?" I asked. My father waved a hand dismissively. "We said we'd give you money, help you out. Isn't that enough? You owe it to the family." The sheer entitlement made me want to scream. Instead, I replied quietly, "Of course, I'm grateful. Just checking." My half-brother rolled his eyes. "Don't mess this up." They left, believing I was fully on board. My phone recorded every word. Now I had them admitting they wanted me to take the fall. I had them admitting the stolen goods were in my half-brother's room. Yes, he'd bragged about how he hid them. Idiots. They gave me exactly what I needed. The trial date approached. My father's fancy lawyer tried to contact me. coaching me on my testimony. I played dumb, nodding along as he said, "Remember, you took them, no one else. Keep the story simple." I asked innocently, "But what if the prosecution asks about my half-brother?" He scoffed. He had nothing to do with it. Just stick to the script. More evidence of collusion. My lawyer friend helped me submit the recorded evidence to the prosecutor just before the trial. The prosecutor's eyes widened, impressed by the clarity. "We'll play this in court," she said. "This will bury them." I nodded, feeling a mix of satisfaction and anxiety. I was exposing my own family, but they deserved it. On the day of the hearing, I walked into the courtroom. My father and half-brother sat behind their defense table, looking smug. Their lawyer greeted me with a wink, as if we shared a secret. The judge called the session to order, and the prosecution began questioning witnesses. When my turn came, I stepped onto the stand, took a deep breath, and prepared to deliver the performance of a lifetime. "Do you admit to taking the electronics?" the prosecutor asked. I paused dramatically, glanced at my father and half-brother's expectant faces, then said, "Actually, I have a confession. I didn't take anything, but I do know who did." Gas in the courtroom. My father's face went pale. The show had begun. The defense lawyer jumped up. "Objection." The judge overruled it, wanting to hear my testimony. I explained calmly. I was approached by my father and half-brother to lie in court, to claim responsibility for a crime I didn't commit. I saw my half-brother's jaw drop. My father shook his head vehemently. But I continued. "They offered me money and other favors if I'd take the blame, sparing my half-brother from a criminal record." The prosecutor nodded, signaling me to present the evidence. I handed over the memory stick with the recorded diner conversation. The prosecutor played it aloud for everyone to hear. My father's voice crackled through the speakers, instructing me to lie. My half-brother's sneering tone, demanding I take the fall. The courtroom fell silent, tension thick. The judge's brow furrowed. The jury looked appalled. My father's lawyer tried damage control, accusing me of entrapment, but the judge reminded him that in our state, one-party consent recording is legal, and I had every right to protect myself. Besides, this wasn't a sting operation set up by the police, just me gathering proof of being coerced. My half-brother's face turned red, then white. He muttered something to his lawyer, who looked panicked. The prosecution hammered the point home. "So, you were kicked out of your home so your half-brother could live comfortably, and now they wanted you to risk a criminal record for him?" I nodded. "Yes, that's correct." The judge asked if I had more evidence. I mentioned the phone calls, the coach testimony. The prosecutor introduced my lawyer friend as a witness to the communications I'd received from their lawyer. He testified about overhearing certain hints without breaking attorney-client privilege from my side, because I was never a client of that lawyer, just the victim of their scheme. It looked bad, very bad for my father and half-brother. The defense tried a desperate tactic, claiming I fabricated everything. But the recordings were authentic, verified by the prosecution's tech expert. No tampering. As the trial continued, the prosecutor requested a recess to file additional charges: conspiracy, obstruction of justice, suborning perjury. The judge granted it. My father and half-brother looked trapped. They had walked into court expecting me to lie for them, never imagining I'd turn the tables publicly. Their entitlement had blinded them. During the recess, my father tried to approach me in the hallway. A bailiff blocked him. I saw him mouth the words, "You'll regret this," but I just smiled coldly. My half-brother slumped in a corner, defeated. They gambled on my obedience and lost spectacularly. When the session resumed, the prosecutor laid out the new charges. The defense lawyer stammered, asking for a continuance. The judge agreed, but with my father and half-brother now facing arrest for their roles in trying to frame me. The original theft charge against my half-brother was strong enough, but now it would be nearly impossible for him to escape punishment. They had no scapegoat left. In the following days, arrest warrants were issued for both my father and half-brother on charges related to witness tampering and conspiracy. The stolen electronics case was still pending, But with the newfound credibility I had as a truthful witness, the prosecution could easily link the crime back to my half-brother. Their entitled plan dependent on me had backfired completely. I saw my father one more time at a brief hearing to formalize the charges. He tried to plead with me through the courtroom glass, mouthing apologies and begging forgiveness. My half-brother stood beside him, glaring as if it were all my fault. The irony was delicious. They expected me to give up my freedom to preserve their spotless image. Now they would face the consequences of their lies and manipulations. After the court hearings, I returned to my small apartment. I looked around at the modest furniture, the secondhand TV, and realized I felt freer than ever. Yes, my family had cast me aside, tried to use me, but I'd proven I wasn't their pawn. I'd outsmarted them, ensuring that the truth came out where it mattered most, in front of a judge and jury. They would face real penalties, fines, maybe jail time. Their reputations would be ruined. The stolen electronics were eventually found hidden in my half-brother's old bedroom closet, exactly where he'd hinted they were. Additional evidence sealed his fate. My father, who once kicked me out like trash, would now watch as his golden child faced criminal sentencing. They might blame me, call me disloyal, but I owed them nothing. They brought this on themselves. I don't celebrate this outcome, exactly. It's sad that it had to come to this. But sometimes justice tastes bitter and sweet at the same time. I learned that I have a backbone, that I won't be bullied into sacrificing myself for people who treat me as disposable. In a way, I found my voice through this ordeal. As news spread in our community, some relatives reached out, shocked by my father and half-brother's behavior. A few apologized for ever doubting me. Others stayed silent, uncomfortable with the truth. I didn't need their approval. I had my dignity, my freedom, and the satisfaction of having turned their twisted scheme on its head. No longer the scapegoat, I can focus on my own life, finishing my college program, saving money, maybe moving to a better place eventually. The memory of that courtroom scene, the moment the recording played, will linger in my mind as a reminder that standing up for myself was worth the risk. If watching entitled schemers crash and burn lights your fire, hit that subscribe button. Trust me, I've got more stories up my sleeve.